take a closer look at that Celtics-Raptors series with Game 5 coming up later today. After a red-hot start to the postseason, Boston has cooled off quite a bit. The Celtics shot just 20% from deep on Saturday, and the Raptors have tied this one up at 2-2. So, Paul, what's changed for Boston?
I really don't think it's something that's changed about Boston. I think this is all about Toronto. I think that shot kind of demoralized them for Game 4, man. I mean, you go for potentially 0.5 seconds of being up 3-0 and basically putting this series away to now it's 2-2. They got to mentally get back into it.
Yep.
Like, seriously, and now the Raptors got confidence. They like, look, we the defending champs. We about to get off the floor and get up swinging because we not going out like that. And if the Celtics don't get their psyche back, the defending champs going to show why they're the defending champs, and they going to take advantage of that because they got confidence now. And they feel like they can win this series, and they feel like they can get to the finals. So I'm telling you, that shot did something to the Celtics psyche. Let's see if they can bounce back today.
I mean, I don't really have nothing to say. He said it exactly what I was going to say. Like I said, I think there's a lingering hangover from Game 3. They gave him a little bit of hope in Game 4. Shots don't fall. Stuff doesn't happen for them. And now it's a 2-2 game. So I think they just have to get back to what got them there for Boston. Boston has been my sleeper pick the whole time. I still think they can beat them, although it's a game of momentum, and the Raptors obviously have momentum right now. But I need to see Tatum, Brown, and Kemba be in that 60-plus point range. Marcus Smart be that wild card. But them just getting back to scrambling on defense, maybe not settling for so many shots, attacking the basket and making plays for each other.
You mentioned Tatum and Brown in the two losses. They've each been up and down, right, in those games. What are you seeing differently? Is it just them not hitting shots, or is Toronto doing something different?
I mean, Toronto was tough. You can never take away credit from them. It's just a part of being young. You know what I mean? You got to stay consistent. That's what separates good players from great players to superstars. You know, I think Tatum has a chance to be a superstar. Brown is right there, but it's just that consistency that they need night in, night out, especially in the playoffs.
Well, you got to understand Toronto's been a top-tier defensive team, too, all year long. And guess what? Siakam is back because he disappeared in them first 2-3 games.
He did.
I think he's got confidence. He was a guy that was huge for them in that championship run. Kyle Lowry must have got in his face and was like, look, big fella, we need you to step up. Yeah. You know, you're our anchor. He was an all-star this year. And I think he's found his rhythm. He's a defensive anchor. But I give credit to Kyle Lowry. You know, he's not putting up huge numbers. What I see him doing, he's setting the tone for them every night.
Yeah, both
every night, and they gaining confidence from that.
And I think that to piggyback on what Paul said, Siakam last year was the second option. You know what I mean? So when you're that first option and that person that every night that they're going to take away your best 2 or 3 things, it takes a while. Especially he may have seen it a little bit in the regular season, but in the playoffs when you have a series to adjust every night, he had to wake up and realize, like, it's more than just being, Kawhi burdened all the pressure last year. Now, Siakam burdens all the pressure, but I think, like Paul said also, Kyle Lowry has done a great job of staying on top of guys, holding them accountable, and then just causing a havoc on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. And schematically, it feels like those first couple of games, there was a lot of Siakam isolation, right? Whereas now it feels like he's getting the ball in different spots and places he's more comfortable for sure. All right, so this is now a best-of-3 series. The Celtics are a slight favorite to win tonight. But, Matt, who do you trust more in this series from this point on, Boston or Toronto? You said they were your sleeper picks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to stray away from my team, the team I picked, which was the Celtics. But honestly, battle-tested, proven championship pedigree. It's hard to go against the Raptors.
Yeah,
hard to go against the Raptors.
Paul Pierce.
The Celtics have had a couple deep playoff runs. The Raptors are the champs.
Right.
I think the Celtics are ready to get over this hump, and they knew coming in this wasn't going to be easy. It's not easy to win in the NBA playoffs. They got to accept hard, and I think they finally accepted hard. They got punched back in the face.
What did they do?
They're gonna have that mentality today. All right, it's going to be hard. We're going to be ready for that tonight, and they're going to get over the hump.
Must win tonight?
They must win tonight.
Yeah, Game 5 is huge. Normally the winner of Game 5.
This is the swing game.
We'll go on.
Whoever wins this is going to win the series.
Here we go. That's it. It's on there. Are we going to make a bet? Or is this the wrong show for that? But we can do that here, too, if you want.
I can't bet against the Celtics.
All right. Both coaches have been riding their stars pretty hard in this series. The Raptors' 3 stars are all over 40 minutes a game if you look at the way this thing has shaken out here in this particular series. Is that a concern for any of you guys?
No.
Well, these teams lack depth.
Right.
And so they rely heavily.
Well, Boston for sure.
Well, definitely Boston.
Yeah.
Especially without having Gordon out there. They lack the depth. So they rely heavily on their starters. And you can see them getting tired late in games. And so This is going to be a game of wills from the starters.
Now's the time. I mean, they had some time off. Obviously, it's been a lot since they've been back in the bubble. And the way I look at it, too, is they're all young. You got to think when Paul and I first played, it was play as many minutes as you can and play every single game all season. So, obviously, the times have changed, but these are young kids. You got to go. Now it's time to go.
No. I just got to be stronger with the ball, hold on to the ball. That's fine. On to the next play, and I think we did a great job of that. We just didn't win the game. There was way too many things that we did wrong that we just can't let happen. It never comes down to that play or any other play. I'm cool. We didn't deserve to win that game. We didn't play our type of basketball, and that play is just another play out of so many, They call that foul, whatever. Something else bad probably would happen the way that we were playing tonight. So we'll just be better and not have to rely on one call to change the game.
The NBA's last 2-minute report acknowledged today that it was indeed a foul by Bledsoe. Matt, we heard Jimmy say all the right things there, but 2 questions here for you. How costly was that particular call? And second, how bad is that rule?
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a player, I hated seeing the 2-minute report the next day because you knew they blew the call, and then sometimes they admit it, sometimes they don't admit it, but they admitted it here. Obviously, it was a foul call, but to me, what's the point? We were talking about this before this. What's the point of going to replay if you can't? That was clearly a foul. And like you said, Jimmy said the right things. It's in the rule books. There's no point in arguing or complaining about it, but we don't play anymore. So we can complain. What's the point of going back to replay to see who went out on if there's a foul or not if you can't actually change the circumstances without having to challenge the call? So I think that's something they need to address.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with replay is going back to get the call right.
Period.
Period. Yeah, the ball went out of bounds, but it was clearly a foul. Jimmy Butler said he had to be strong with the ball, but I'm like, how much stronger you can be with the ball when somebody grabs your whole arm and the ball goes out? That's clearly a foul. So, something has to be done about this replay situation to where let's just make sure we get the call right.
Period.
Yeah, I guess the rule states if there's no actual foul call on that, they can't go back and change that. Had there been a foul call, like let's say it would have been, any other call really in that situation, they could have gone back and overturned it. But the refs, to your guys' point, should have that latitude in that situation.
And if you're going to take the time, because like I said, I like that they're going to replay and try to get these plays right, but obviously they stop the flow and momentum of the game. So if you're going to stop the whole flow and momentum of the game, at least come back with the right verdict. Okay, they missed the call. It's hard to make every single call. They missed the call, but at least give them the ability to say, okay, hey, I missed the call. The ball is out on Jimmy, but he actually got fouled first. Let's give him his 2 free throws. If you're going to go replay and waste our time overall, make sure we get the call right.
Yeah, that should be the goal for sure. Hey, Chris Middleton dropped a playoff career-high 36 points in the Bucks win last night after Giannis went down. Obviously, he just took over, basically. He was the centerpiece of the Bucks offense. And looking at the numbers in this series, the Bucks have been surprisingly good when Giannis is off the floor against the Heat. In 119 minutes with Giannis off the court, the Bucks have been outscored by 32 points. In comparison, when the Bucks have Giannis, when Giannis isn't on the floor, they have outscored the Heat by 7 points in 78 minutes. So, Paul, how do you explain these numbers that the Heat are just better when Giannis is actually on the floor, the MVP of the league?
Well, you got to understand the scouting report for the Heat is designed to stop Giannis. And initially what they do, they give the Giannis the ball and they say, here, big fella, you need to go dominate, get to the basket, make plays for other people. When he's not in the game, they move the ball more. There's more ball movement. There's more body movement. There's more cutting. And so if you tell me, this is similar to how we beat LeBron James in early 2000s. They were like, hey, we scouted, we built the wall around LeBron, and we knew that that's what they want to do. They wanted to penetrate and find open shooters. Same here with Giannis. But when the scouting report is not to have Giannis in the lineup, it's like, how do you defend them? Because they're moving the ball, guys are cutting, and they're getting open shots. So it's a big difference.
I think numbers can be deceiving sometimes. To think that the Bucks are better without Giannis, I don't think anyone's saying that. But like Paul said, the whole goal is to wall Giannis up, and Giannis hasn't been able to figure that out yet. And something I pointed out the other day is it always seems like the deeper the Bucks get into the playoffs, and it's crazy to say this about last year's MVP and possibly this year's MVP, I think the holes in his offensive games are exposed a little bit more. It's either all the way to the basket or they're going to live with him making a couple threes in the game. So, like I said, we talked about Russ and the next step, and obviously the next step in Giannis is developing that mid-range and that mid-block game that Anthony Davis can use, because you're able, when it comes to the playoffs, when you have 7 games to try to figure someone out, you're going to be able to build and block him off, and you literally take him out of the game somewhat.
So let's say Giannis doesn't play in Game 5. Paul, you alluded to the fact they moved the ball. They looked completely different on offense. Miami also got a little stagnant. It looked like they took the foot off the gas a little bit in that game. What does Miami need to do if Giannis doesn't play defensively?
Well, if Miami, what they need to do is say, look, this series has to be over. They don't have Giannis. They can't play down to the level because the tendency sometimes with player when your best player doesn't play is like it's going to be a cakewalk. Well, them other guys on the other end are like, our best player's not playing. We need to play hard as possible to try to get a win. So Miami need to come out with the attitude they had in Game 1, Game 2, and say we need to put this series away in dominant fashion, which they can do.
And another thing, Paul's always been the best player. So when Paul was out, people like me and other guys like, okay, well now we know we're going to get more shots. We know we're going to be able to do some things. So that's what these guys are kind of looking for anyway. Obviously, they love having Giannis out there, but they know when their top dog goes down that that's going to give everyone maybe 2 or 3 more shots, 4 more shots, more for Middleton, more for Bledsoe, and then more for the role players. So I mean, obviously, it keeps everyone. You have to hold everyone accountable. But like Paul said, Miami has to come out with the mentality they have to close this out, whether Giannis is playing or not, and get rested up for the Eastern Conference Finals.
To that point, Jimmy Butler said in the postgame as well that they got comfortable. And that's the thing that they can't do in any series, let alone this particular series against a team like that.